Hi, everybody. So this is Meet Qt WebKit, and I'm Pierre Rossi. So by the way, there's a mistake on the printed program. Alexi will not be doing this. There was a swap quite a while back. Please feel free to move forward so you're closer. That would be nice. Yeah. Excellent. And phones on silent. OK, let's start. So I'm Pierre Rossi, as I said. I'm French, 26. I'm based in Oslo. I started working in Nokia as a support engineer a few years back. So some of you, potentially commercial customers, might have seen me by email or dealt with me in the past. I studied aeronautics originally, so I got into computers a bit on the late side, but I was really into that, so I figured I might as well look for a job in that field. And this summer, I moved to the Qt WebKit team, so we like to call ourselves the WebKittens, and I'm very happy about it and very excited to be here to talk about WebKit. I like to contribute in open source projects, so Qt and WebKit are two obvious examples. I also contributed a few things to Reconq. It's an open source browser in KDE, if you might have heard about it. Not as much as I would like to sometimes, but it's very nice. And I would define myself as vertically inclined, because I like all sorts of my hobbies include like climbing, ice climbing, speed flying. I did a lot of skydiving when I was studying in Toulouse. So yeah, anything vertical. OK, so let's set some goals. How many of you are developers or managers? So developers writing code, yeah? Do you have some managers, people who are not directly involved with writing code? OK. Good. Nice. So what I want from this talk is getting you to start using Qt WebKit in your applications. Not just for the sake of using Qt WebKit, but maybe it can help you it can help you in your application really fulfill some needs you have. So I want to show you what it can do, so you know it's there for the day you need it. And I also have a not-so-hidden agenda. I'd like to make you attend the other WebKit talks that are going to take place in the next day and a half. So there are other people talking about all things WebKit and Qt WebKit, and some of those talks will definitely be very interesting. So I will try to point them out to you so you know where to go. And last but not least, I would like to advertise the WebKit project as a whole a little. So maybe getting you to contribute or just get you interested, say hi, follow what's happening. So that would be also one of the things I want to emphasize on. So what are the things we're going to talk about? First, I'll start with the WebKit project, try to take the bigger picture, mention a bit the community. Then we'll talk about Qt WebKit, its architecture, why it's there originally, and when it's nice to use. Then I'll try to walk you through the API that is there at the moment, and try to highlight some key features. So WebKit is an open source web rendering engine. So it does lays out the content and renders it. It's used mainly in browsers. So you might have heard of it from Safari or Chromium on the desktop. It's also used on the desktop in applications that are not web browsers. because it can do lots of things with content. And it's also massively used on mobile. Pretty much every mobile platform is using it. So it consists of several pieces. We have web core, which is the main big piece, where pretty much everything happens. There's a JavaScript engine as well, so JavaScript core or V8, depending on the flavor, the ports. And speaking of ports and flavors, a former coworker of mine, Aria, who was hacking on Qt WebKit in probably from the beginning, has a very nice analogy. It really speaks to me probably because of my background with aeronautics. So essentially, WebKit is an engine, and he compares it to jet engines on an airplane. So you have some engines are used on lots of different types of airplanes, being like Airbus or Boeing or anything. And it doesn't mean the engine is the airplane is necessarily the same. So a bit in the same way, WebKit can come in lots of different flavors. So in WebKit, we have this thing we call the ports. Basically, WebKit offers a lot of semi-abstract interfaces that you need to implement some pieces based on your platform, your things. So that's what the ports do. For instance, Safari and Apple do it using their own native APIs. Chromium has their own things, and we have Qt. So that highlights a bit Qt WebKit. The community is something very important in WebKit. We all work in the same place that we call trunk. So we share the same mainline of development, and there are no official releases of WebKit as such. So the sub-projects, the ports, make their own releases depending on their needs. So if the port is really targeting a web browser, then the releases come with the web browser, basically. And Qt WebKit being quite developer-oriented, we have this cycle of releases, official releases, where we release a new version of Qt WebKit. WebKit is an incredibly fast-moving project. The things that have happened with HTML lately and everything else, it happens really fast, and the standards are evolving at a very high pace, and people are pushing the standards. So sometimes it's even a bit hard for us to try and follow and catch up. But at the same time, it's extremely exciting. We have community available on IRC, on Freenode. You can go and join the WebKit channel or the Qt WebKit channels where the Qt people hang out. That's usually pretty active and very friendly, so don't be afraid. Don't be shy. And there are mailing lists. If you're curious and you want to follow what's happening, I invite you to go and take a look at the mailing list. The Qt one might be one of interest for you. So you might have heard of this thing lately, WebKit2. It's I won't get into the details, but it's a very big architectural change for WebKit, and we at Nokia consider it a big step forward. So that's what we're working on now, in the hope that we're going to be ready for Qt 5 with something exciting. So yeah, it's essentially a process split within the framework. So the web process is taking care of lots of things, and it doesn't live in the same process as your UI and your application. So you can learn more about this. Alexi, a former coworker of mine, will be talking about this. He's now leading the Qt WebKit team at INDT in Brazil. And yeah, he was recently a father. He's a great guy, so I encourage you to go there. It's tomorrow in the Qt Labs track at 10:15. And you can learn more, see some demos, and ask your questions about the future there. So what is Qt WebKit? So now I'm going to be talking about the WebKit 1-based API, the thing we already have that you can use right away, and that is in the official releases. So it was introduced in Qt 4.4. There was a need, I think we felt there was a need for more web content to be integrated into the applications. And WebKit was quite an obvious choice because it was originally forked from KHTML, which originated in KDE. And some of the people at the office have been involved in the project from the very beginning. I can mention Lars. You saw him in the keynote this morning, and he was one of the very first hackers on KHTML. So yeah, the decision of going with WebKit was quite natural. And so Qt WebKit is now a port like any other living upstream. And yeah, we're doing our thing. So let's see a bit how it's architectured. We have WebKit at the core of the library, including web core. We now ship it with JavaScript core for the script engine. And yeah, the web inspector is something we'll see later, which is also part of WebKit. On top of that, we have a nice Qt style API, so you're not completely lost. If you're familiar with the Qt API, there's an API that should really make you feel at home. That gives you access to WebKit and exposes the things we found were necessary for you to use in your application. And on the other side, we have the backend. As I said, there were like semi-abstract interfaces where we have to implement some things for the platform. So in our case, we use Qt. We use Qt pretty much everywhere. So be it for, OK, we use Qt core, obviously, for everything like URLs and strings. And the network is quite naturally used massively. So we use the Qt network module extensively for all the network access. The GUI is used, so you can have the benefits of Qstyle and the widgets. So, and even things like bearer management are used. So like lots of all the nice things we can find in Qt, we try to make the best use of it. And the benefit of that is that we have good cross-platform support with decent enough compilers. So all the platforms should run something very similar. So I'll try to give you a little idea now of when to use Qt WebKit, when it can make sense for you to have Qt WebKit in your application. So one of the first cases we can think of is to embed some web content into a native application. That can be documentation. If you have like documentation that's generated that's HTML, you might want to embed that in your application at some point for user manual or help, contextual help. So that's one of the use cases that we can think of. Server-based user interface is also a paradigm that could be interesting. We'll see more about this in this talk and other talks that I will point at. To make a web browser, that's also a very valid use case. And for having tried and played with it a little bit, yeah, this API is perfectly fine for making a web browser. You have pretty much everything you need. It's quite thorough. And it can also be interesting to consider if you have lots of web development skills in your team, lots of people who have experience with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, then using Qt WebKit is probably something you could consider. So let's go for a spin. Is there anything in particular that you really like about Qt, or I don't know, something that comes to mind? At least for me, it's the documentation. I really like the documentation in Qt. It saves a lot of time. It's I think it's a great thing. So that's something I really like to refer to. And let's imagine, for the sake of the exercise, that we do not have the structure in place for the documentation with QDoc and everything, but we do have HTML. So what I want to do is a super quick little application to go through the documentation and access the things I need. So I'll start with something very basic, a project. One of the things I'm going to start doing if I want to use WebKit is add WebKit to the Qt variable in my QMake project file, so that the include path is right and we know what to link against. And everything else is pretty standard. The target, we want to make an app, and we have a bunch of source files and a header file. So some things to see. We have here, we need a web view, so I'm going to use this web view, and everything else should be quite straightforward. And in my implementation file, so I'll just not show what's in it. It's just setting up a layout, putting the web view in there. Very, very basic. And then all it takes, so yeah, I was a bit scared to use the network because I didn't know if it would be reliable. So I just put this awful long line just to extract the documentation from my local file system. But you could as well use doc.qt.nokia.com/48, and that would work as well. And all it takes is loading the Q URL. And so if we run it, here we go. So we have a web view. We can navigate. It's pretty nice. I can see all those classes. I think it's already usable as it is, and it takes just a bunch of lines. But I would like to push it a bit more. So yeah, we can see in this class index that it's very convenient. We have all the class names, and it links to the pages for the documentation for each class. One of the things that's nice about the way the documentation is generated, it's a flat structure, so all the things are in the same place. So the only thing I would need really to make this much better is finding a pattern for all those class names with links. So we have this thing. Lots of very convenient gems are hidden in this class called QWebSettings. So what I want to show here is that I'm going to set this very nice little attribute, developer extras enabled. And just with this, I'm going to get a little bit of help from WebKit. I can see all those links. And now if I right-click, I get to inspect it. So this window that you see, I can show quickly, it highlights all the divs. It's extremely nice and pleasant to use. So I use it a lot because I'm not very familiar with, I'm not that proficient with HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So I would be completely lost without the inspector. This is something that is, by the way, completely done in HTML and JavaScript. And it's something you can find in any WebKit port. It's always the same, so it really feels at home. So we can see that our classes are all in those. So we have this. Yeah, I think in the documentation we're slightly hacking the description list. So here we have description title, and that's for the letter each time, and the actual description is the link to the page. So we can see that we have this pattern of a DD tag with a element underneath. So what we're going to do is try to extract this from the page and see if we can make our little documentation browser a bit better. So, oh, that should really be the header file. So but no worries. This presentation is also made in HTML and JavaScript. Some of the credit goes actually to Benjamin Poulain, a former coworker of mine. We really like to do some dog fooding. So hacking on Qt WebKit, using Qt WebKit to do the presentation is actually very nice. And last year he put some very nice JavaScript logic together, so I've been reusing a lot of that and added some of my own glue to make those slides. And yeah, so we have some very nice features of HTML that are supported, like content editable, and that's what I use to fix my broken slide. So my idea here is to keep a map of the class names and the URLs for all these classes. And I want to go through the source of that page that we've just seen with the classes and populate this map and keep this map around so that later I can access the classes in a very convenient manner. So the first thing I'm going to need is QMap. I will keep the URL as a string. And I also add a QWeb page. And this is the off-screen pendant of the views. So it will help me just load the page off-screen and go through its content. On the implementation side, really the important parts are here. I'm going to use QWebElement. So at the very beginning, when I load the application, I'm just going to add this call to load on the web page to load the classes page off screen. And behind the scene, I connect the loading to a slot. So once the page is loaded, I'm going to do some operations. And I also add a line edit in which I will be able to type the class names. And when pressed, I pass the documentation page for the class that I typed. So I'm going to be using QWebElement. In there, I get the document root node. And then we have this very nice thing in QWebElement, which allows us to go through the DOM in a very JavaScript fashion. So I can select with a CSS selector the elements that I've seen as being the links that I'm interested in. Then I'm just going to iterate over these and insert them in the map. And I'll use the class name as the key and the actual URL as the value. So you can see that I can access the attributes of the node once it's extracted. And in that case, I want the hyperref. So once I've done that, I want to be able to use it. We have this very convenient thing in Qt, QCompleter, and it goes very well with a line edit. So it's as easy as adding a new QCompleter to the line edit, giving it the class names, and that's about it. So yeah, then I enable the line edit, give it the focus, and since I don't need the classes page, I can get rid of it because my map is populated at that point. The last bit is loading the class documentation when enter is pressed, when inputting text in the line edit. So it's very easy, again. This is due to the fact that it's a flat structure. We have all the classes in the same folder, and on the website it's the same. So that makes my life very easy. I can just load that, and I'm happy. So here we go. Now let's say I want to see QWebFrame. And voila. So yeah, that only highlights a bunch of features we have in Qt WebKit that make it very pleasant to use, in my opinion. It was actually quite hard to come up with a small example that wasn't covered in the examples that are shipped with Qt. So I encourage you to go and take a look. A lot of use cases, simple use cases, and very nice things you can do are covered in the examples and the demos. And it usually comes with documentation as well. So yeah, that's probably the first place to go if you're looking for something, want to know if it's possible. Okay. So I've been using this API, but you might have wondered, what is this? What is that? I'm going to talk a bit about it again, so it makes it clearer. So we have two views, the web view and the graphics web view. Those are the on-screen classes, sort of. So the Qt web view is a widget, and the Qt graphics web view is meant to be used in graphics view. So it's a graphics item. They both share the fact that, so the dash line is supposed to give you an idea of where the off-screen, on-screen limit is. So they both use Qt web page internally, and Qt web page consists of a set of Qt web frames. So you have a main frame, and if there are iframes in the page, there might be other frames that you can go iterate over and act upon. So those are the classes you're going to start using right away. Qt web view or Qt graphics web view, depending on your needs, and then you might have to go and use the web page, use the web frame, depending on what you want to do. Some other classes, we've seen Qt web settings is it's where all the settings are, so you can tweak really the behavior of Qt WebKit. Lots of really nice features are hidden in there. Some of them are specific to a given implementation, Qt graphics web view or Qt web view. I have tiling in mind, for instance, that only works with Qt graphics web view. Some accelerated compositing also. So it's usually well documented. You can see what's possible, and it tells you, it can give you a hint of how to do it. The web inspector, I mentioned it, I showed it a bit. It's a great tool. I can probably show it a bit more. So the only thing we've seen earlier was essentially the elements. You can see what style applies to them, what doesn't apply. I don't know if it's big enough on the screen. Maybe the font is a bit small, but basically it's very helpful when you want to understand what's happening with your CSS. You have access to the metrics, so the margin, the border, everything is shown in a nice graphical way in the page as well. But it also helps with resources. You can see what you loaded, images, things that have been loaded, the style sheets. So yeah, you have access to lots of things. The network, yes, for that I will have to reload the page. I can probably do it. Let's do it in the example. So if I inspect this and go to network, where is it? Here. Oops, reload. And now in the inspector you can see it tells you which resource, a timeline, and you can see everything as it happened. So that's very nice when you want to do profiling on a website or figure out what's happening, even in your web application. You can also debug JavaScript. The timeline is more advanced for profiling profiles. Yeah. So there are lots of great tools, and a console in which you can type JavaScript directly and go through the DOM. It's very nice. So back to where we were. So that's the web inspector. We provide a very basic but very nice API. You can bind it to a page and show it on screen, resize it, basically interact with the window through that API. And then we have some classes for history management. So the back-forward buttons in a web browser. When you're navigating, you're creating a history, and those classes help you interact with this history programmatically. Maybe you want to stop logging some sites. Maybe you want to make the history more usable based on the contents you're showing. So you can tweak it with those classes. Some of the more advanced features. So one of the things I find very interesting is the integration with Qt Network. We expose the Qt Network Access Manager instance that Qt WebKit is using. So you can basically subclass it and do anything you want. It gives you access to the cookies, to all the network traffic that's going through. The cache, like everything is exposed via Qt Network Access Manager. So it is not trivial, but it's very powerful. So if you really need to do things that require a very tight network integration, then you can use this. And it will be demonstrated in the next talk, as I heard. The so-called DOM API, so that's the Qt Web Element class I've been using in the example. It basically gives you access to the DOM. It has lots of nice features, including render, which means you can render any part of the page to any QPaint device. So that is very powerful and nice to use. And another advanced feature is the Qt WebKit bridge, which allows for bidirectional C++ and JavaScript integration. So that's something, in my opinion, is very powerful, and you can also use it for very small things. For instance, in this application presentation, each time I clicked the Run button, behind the scene it was just invoking C++ slot, in which I was starting a new queue process with the application, the different builds of the demo app. So, but you can do lots of things with it, and that actually enables a very nice development paradigm, hybrid development. So you can combine the advantages of both HTML and JavaScript with also the use of C++, which sometimes you would like to have access when you're working with pure HTML JavaScript. So you can mix and match and use what you feel is best for different functionalities. It also enables you to push different UIs without updating, so it reduces the deployment problems a lot. You could think of what Spotify does with what's new, and they always have like new albums coming. I don't know if you've ever used it, but for basically what iTunes does as well on Mac, like if you have a part of the UI where you want to have new contents on a regular basis, and even if you want to change the UI a little bit, using hybrid development is a great opportunity to do that. So all this, you might be interested. Noam, who's sitting right here, also a coworker of mine, he took the time to make the trip here to Munich to talk about several things, even though he's extremely busy at the moment. So I think you should really stay. If you don't have any other talk that you really want to attend, this one is probably a very good idea. He will be talking about hybrid development with Qt WebKit, showing some very interesting things. And he's probably the best person to talk about this because he pretty much wrote the Qt WebKit bridge. And he also worked a lot with several companies doing, making sure that they were enabled to do what they wanted to do with Qt WebKit and hybrid development. We also have some HTML5 support that is there in the latest Qt WebKit release. I will just show a few CSS transitions and animations. It's something very easy to use and very nice. So if you're using Qt WebKit for your UI, you can use this and make the UI snappier. It's extremely easy to use, and I will use the inspector again just to show you a little bit what happens in there. Everything happens in CSS. Okay, what is... Yes. So, I lost it. Everything happens in CSS. It's extremely user-friendly. And I'm losing my cursor, so it's a bit hard to show. But I don't know if you can see on the screen. The text is pretty small and blurry. Essentially, it's a declarative way of telling I want this property to be animated over that time, and then you just set the states, and everything else is computed for you. So in 10 lines of CSS, you can get everything animated in a very nice way. Yeah. Then the canvas. You probably have heard of the canvas. I won't go into great length. All you need to know is it's sort of a, I would describe it as a QPainter-like API in JavaScript. So you have all the primitives for drawing things from JavaScript, and we have support for this. I have a few examples I can show. So that's a nice little graph calc. You can zoom. And this is all pure HTML. It can run in any web browser that supports Canvas. The network seems to be pretty decent, so I can show this one. So this is just generating random drawings following a certain pattern, and it's all done in JavaScript. And this is also a funny example. So that illustrates the fact that it's very responsive. I mean, this is all JavaScript, and it works pretty nicely. All the calculations done on the fly. Yes. I like this. So then we have the application cache. This is useful if you're doing web application or hybrid development for the cases where the network access is not there. So when you're in degraded access, you might have seen when Gmail is, when your laptop or your computer is going offline and you still have Gmail open in a tab, it will know that you're offline, but the contents are still there. The images, everything is kept in the cache. So that's a use case for the application cache. You can specify which resources you want your web engine to keep in the cache, and it will keep them even when you go offline. Online-offline events, that's something that was added quite recently. I can show it. If I turn the network off, I put a little bit of JavaScript in there, and it should get an event, and the event handler will hopefully show something on screen. That is not very convincing. Let's try again. Must be the demo effect. Yes, but this usually works. It worked just before the presentation. Other things worth mentioning, local storage and database. It's essentially key value storage. It sort of addresses the problem that cookies have been trying to solve for a long time in a much more elegant way. So, and you can actually store a fair amount of data. So form filling, like if you have some forms with the data being there and you want to save that locally so that it's there the next time. So it helps in that case. It helps for lots of things. It's also like very sandboxed from like with the web origin, and you have quotas on it. So it's a very nice API, and all of this is available in Qt WebKit. You can even tweak it via QWeb settings. And then multimedia, we have some new things in 4.8 about that. Alexi, again, has done tremendous work on multimedia, getting the video and audio elements to work on most platforms. And he will probably be showcasing this in his HTML5 talk. Tomorrow, well, the time is on the screen. And since I've been mentioning all those UI technologies, you might be a bit lost. All those options with HTML, you can do your whole UI with it. You can do hybrid development. You've also heard of Qt a lot in the last year, I think. And C++ is still there and still worth using in lots of cases. So to cover this confusion, potential confusion, Noam will be giving a talk in the same room here tomorrow morning at 9. Oh, room A, room E? Room change. I didn't do my homework right. So in room E. And you can ask questions there, potentially. I think it should be quite, how to say that? Well, you should get the hints you're looking for. Depending on your use case, it's a very tricky question. So depending on your use case, you probably want to use one or the other technology. OK, before we wrap this up, I just want to say a few words on the community and how to get involved. The first thing you can do, you've seen this morning we talked about the Qt project going live and how you can contribute. WebKit was one of the models that was considered when looking at the contribution model for Qt. And so it has been like this for quite a while now. And it's an extremely open project. Anybody can contribute. First part of contributing can be reporting bugs. So we have a bug tracker upstream for the whole of WebKit is reporting their bugs in the same place. So we don't track our QtWebKit bugs on the Qt bug tracker. So please report bugs upstream on the WebKit Bugzilla. But reporting bugs is sometimes not enough to get them fixed. So sometimes you might want to get your hands dirty to see the bug that's bugging you get fixed and benefit from it. And also, all the other people can benefit from your fix. So that is also something you can do, because WebKit is extremely open. You can post your patches on the WebKit Bugzilla. You don't have to be part of any commercial company or entity. Anybody can do it. Actually, in QtWebKit, we have lots of contributors who are not part of Nokia. INDT, the guys from INDT, it's a research institute in Brazil. And we also have people from the University of Szeged in Hungary. And lots of also individuals just contributing to Qt WebKit. So don't hesitate if you feel like there's something you can fix. The sources are available. You can look through it, even ask on IRC. And yes, all you need to do is post a patch and follow up. So this is all documented on webkit.org at the following address. And that is all. You might have some questions. Can we take questions? I think we have quite a lot of time, so I'm happy to answer all the questions you have, if I can.
Hi. On Windows, Qt WebKit takes quite a lot of disk space. It's quite a big library compared to all the other Qt libraries. Is that mainly because WebKit is so big, or because it's just the Qt layer on top of WebKit that really makes it a lot bigger than just plain WebKit would be?
That is quite a tough question. WebKit is pretty big as such. You can tell by the time it takes to build it, and especially linking is awfully long. I don't know Is the library that big on Windows, specifically?
I think it was like 15 megs, 15 to 20, something.
Yeah.
What we usually do when we want to reduce disk space is to compile WebKit directly from trunk. You can remove features. You can compile features out. Like SVG is about 4 megabytes, I think, or even more. But it's possible to really tweak it. Specifically for Windows, I don't think it matters, but I don't think that anything specific for Windows in that matter. One thing to understand is that there is no plain WebKit. There's no comparison between Qt WebKit and plain WebKit. The thing we can compare it is to the Safari.
Other ports.
Safari on Windows or Chromium on Windows, and I don't have the answer for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Noam. I guess that's it. We're probably a bit early, but thanks for your time. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. 25. I guess you guys have time to go grab a coffee before Noam's talk then.